Hello. This is the fifth installment of the read along live stream broadcasts. If that does not mean anything to you, I have written a book called The Funny Thing About Forgiveness: What Every Leader Needs to Know About Improv, Culture, and the World's Least Favorite F Word. And I have invited folks who have bought the book, who are reading the book, to send questions or just thoughts and responses. And then I'll do a live stream every week to respond to those reactions and those stories and questions. And this week, the chapter is chapter 5. It's called Anding with Impact. And the goal of this chapter is to really engage this idea of what it means to use mindful improv thinking and the work of forgiveness to create real impact in our spheres of influence. So, this means as leaders at your company or pastors of churches or, parents and teachers and people who are leaders. Not every leader has a title that reflects that or a paycheck that reflects that, but your impact matters and the difference that you're making matters. So that's the goal of this chapter. And so I'm going to open just with a quick excerpt, and then I will get to questions and my responses to those questions and reflections. So, okay. In a way, forgiveness is the yes in the yes and dance. It's the quiet, gentle, inward humility work that allows us to acknowledge and accept what currently exists so that we can and with impact. Even if the forgiveness opportunities you've been thinking about are not directly work-related, like many of the examples in the previous chapter, you are the bridge. A heart full of self-doubt and resentment sits in your chest at your dinner table and in your boardroom. So your forgiveness work in either area benefits you as a whole person. However, when the vastness of forgiveness work is focused onto leadership and onto culture-shaping endeavors specifically, there are 3 particularly impactful shifts it can begin to motivate. The following 3 examples are impactful to your company, but are also impactful to the world. These shifts put you on the leading edge of how we think about and do culture as a society. A shift in your dominant focus from whatever it is now, revenue growth, customer experience, being viewed as powerful, establishing a strong leadership reputation, etc., to employee experience, also known as your dominant intention will be to support and honor your team members. And as a result, you'll see that revenue growth and customer experience and whatever else matters for your version of success are not only still achieved, but they're achieved better than they would have been without this shift in focus. A shift in your expectations, this is number 2, a shift in expectations for and behavior during confrontation. This dovetails into the first piece because confrontation is how you support and honor your scene partners. I'll explain this more momentarily. And number 3, you will readily provide accountability for yourself and for others throughout the company. A culture cannot truly be healthy without accountability, even for the highest performer, even for the person who's been there the longest, even if saying what needs to be said comes with a cost. Every good culture intention dies without accountability. I'm going to read that one more time because that is really critical. Every good culture intention dies without accountability. Support, confrontation, accountability. We talked earlier in this book about the shift in focus from the customer is always right to my employees are the most important thing. I told you to check out Vineet Nair's book, Employees First, Customers Second, and hopefully that book has already arrived at your house. I also highly recommend reading and learning about servant leadership. 2 titles that have been particularly instrumental in my work are The Servant by James C. Hunter and The Serving Leader by Ken Jennings and John Stallworth, fellow Pittsburghers by whom I'm honored to have been mentored. But what about the times when you're very, very sure someone at your company isn't trustworthy? And as an aside, 2 separate times this week, people have come to me with that exact situation. That exact, I hear you, I get it, I get creative genius, but what about the times when I know for sure that the person that I'm dealing with is not trustworthy? And that's one of the questions that I'll be responding to in a minute, actually. What about the times when you didn't choose them and you don't feel like you can get rid of them? What about the times when you have evidence demonstrating this person's imperfections and damaging behavior? This predicament is the central focus of my work with companies and where support, confrontation, and accountability come to center stage. So let's take some time to look at each individually. And then the chapter continues. But if you haven't picked up the book and that sounds helpful, I hope that you will, because mindful improv thinking, I love it so much. It just blows my mind all the ways that we can use this in order to really make a difference, a lasting impact in the places that are within our control to influence. So I hope you'll take a look. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read and address some of these questions. When I read the words, love is at the core of every human, which is a concept I introduce in this chapter, there is a person that comes to mind for me that I just absolutely cannot accept this about. She is pure evil. I know how it sounds, but it's just the truth. I simply cannot possibly believe this about her from where I'm standing right now, but I'd like to. It's not about her political beliefs or some of the examples you used in this chapter. It's the way she cultivates mistrust seemingly on purpose. It's as if it brings her joy to pit people against each other. She's always working an angle or in some way working behind people's backs to make drama. Given these details, how can trust ever be present? She has shown herself to be untrustworthy. How can I start moving the needle in this situation when her daily behavior is damaging and toxic? I am very sure that there are lots of people who will see this, either who are watching right now or who will watch the replay later, who will stand and clap because you have experienced that kind of toxic behavior. And when you hear me say love is at the core of every person, you're like, I beg to differ. So there's a few thoughts about this. First of all, it seems like the ultimate question here, how can I start moving the needle in this situation? So the first thing is, don't do anything until you are in alignment with the deep truth that love is at her center. Like, do nothing at all. And the reason for that is that the only way to create an environment where she can really grow and where accountability can actually happen is in the presence of truth. Truth is the thing that is needed here. And there's a difference between truth, real truth, deep truth, that love is at her center too. That's the deep truth. There's a difference between being in alignment with that truth and being an equal and opposite reaction. So this is where it's lovely to consider the laws of emotional momentum. And if anyone is interested, maybe just comment on this video and tell me that you're interested. And if you are, then I can tag you with the link, because I did a training last year, a virtual training about the laws of emotional momentum, where I basically took some time out of curiosity to learn about the laws of motion, like from science, from Isaac Newton. I'm pretty sure I said it and then I panicked because I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Isaac Newton. The laws of motion, and learning how do those apply for emotional momentum as well. And, you know, the reality is that when you have someone out there in a company like this, just twisting the knife, poisoning the water hole, just in any way they can, you know, cultivating drama. I've seen that happen. I know that exists. I'm not here. Me saying love is at the center of every person is not me trying to erase the lived experience of what it's like when people behave in an unloving way. That's not what's happening here. I understand, and I have also experienced what that feels like. But the reality is, when someone's going around and they're just gossiping and just going behind people's backs and, you know, all that happens, you know, in companies, unless somebody decides to get in alignment and get rooted in that deep truth, the natural thing that's going to happen, please hear this, is that you will be the equal and opposite reaction. That's what's going to happen. That's the natural tendency, is that in the presence of that force, there is an equal and opposite reaction that happens inside of us. And I have done that. I have been that as well. Like, I see something and it's wrong, and I clearly identify that it's wrong, but I'm not in alignment. I've identified that something is wrong. My integrity tells me something is wrong, but I'm not in alignment. And so I'm the equal and opposite reaction. And then what am I doing? I am going behind her back and saying how crazy this is, how messed up this is, how pure evil she is. Okay. And so this is why it's so important to really tap into that understanding. Who she really is love. And so I took some time to really think about this and jot down some truth to speak to that. So, firstly, when you get into alignment, it's critical to confront this. It's critical to confront this head on, just like I read in that excerpt from the beginning of the chapter. There is no culture without accountability. So, of course, this is something that needs to be addressed. The deep truth is, this team absolutely cannot function with the level of mistrust that is being cultivated through these secretive conversations, gossip, and I can't read my own writing here. Excusatory, conniving. This secretive behavior is just like, it can't happen, and those words need to be said. And what I'm hoping that you took away if you read the full chapter is, these ideas on how to confront it. I hope that that was like instructive and informative, because there is a way to do this so that these offering that truth that can feel difficult for her to hear, you are creating an environment where we cannot collaborate well together. We cannot perform well together in the presence of these behaviors. That you can imagine a world where that can be said in a way where it would be impossible for her to receive that and make changes. So the task is not just to say the thing that needs to be said as quickly as possible. The invitation with this mindful improv thinking approach is, how can we offer that to her in a way where she can receive it and actually grow, So, but that's the truth that needs to be said. And something that I have experienced in the work that I do is being the one that is asked to say something like that to somebody. And, the story everyone's telling themselves is, we've all tried. We've all said it. We've all said it. We need someone from the outside to come in and say it. And then when I come in from the outside and say it, the person is like shocked, because what's happened is that people have in their way tried to say the real truth. They've tried to be that direct, but it's come out unclear in the attempt to be nice, or in the attempt to express like, oh, but I know this person, that's not what they meant, or whatever the reasons are. It hasn't been clear. This is what you're doing that is causing the trouble. And so what I would really encourage you to do is balance honesty, clarity, kindness in equal measure. Don't back away from the clear thing that needs to be said, the clarity that needs to be spoken about these behaviors are damaging. So honesty, clarity, kindness in equal measure. Another thing that I wanted to offer about this, if you're just joining where I'm responding to someone who's completely behaving in a toxic way, how can we trust this person? How can we move the needle forward? How can we ever believe that love is at the core of this person? So another piece of truth that I want to speak to this is that she doesn't actually believe that she's behaving with integrity. She doesn't think that. I know that in the deepest core of my being from the number of times that I've had the honor and privilege. Truly, I'm not just saying that because it sounds nice. It's an incredible privilege and honor, and it's moving and beautiful to get to sit with someone in these really vulnerable conversations and do my best with mindful improv thinking to create an environment that's safe enough to really say these things and have them be heard. Because it's vulnerable to say it and come out and be like, how you're behaving is damaging, but it's vulnerable to listen to that. It's vulnerable to sit there and hear that and really receive it, So in these moments that I've, had the opportunity to sit with someone like in that situation, what I mean is, I don't mean like that, but I mean a situation similar to this is what I mean. What I see is people know. They know that it's not helpful what they're doing. They know it's not in integrity. So please understand how critical it is. When I say don't do anything until you really believe love is at the center, the reason is that you're making it harder for yourself if you don't. Because if you walk into it being like everything about you has to change, you're pure evil. If that's your true belief, what you said is your true belief, then what you're really believing is that your task is to change who this person is. That's not the task. When you understand love is at the center, these behaviors, toxic as they are, you are correct in identifying this as toxic behavior. Collaboration can't happen like that. But when you understand that's learned behavior, the reason that she's behaving this way isn't that she honestly, when it's just her and God beyond the God we name at night, she doesn't think she's behaving with integrity. Know that. She knows that she's not. And so when you can realize that ultimately what needs to happen is for this to be addressed head on and for this to be addressed in a receivable way so that she can start handling confrontation in a way that is full of integrity, then really what's happening is you're inviting her to be more of who she really is. Like, do you hear that? When you walk in believing someone's pure evil, then you tell yourself, my job is to figure out how to make this person change, or figure out how I can get a different job, or figure out how to fire this person. Versus when you walk in and you know who this person really is way better than that. These behaviors that I'm seeing are the crusty outer shell. This is learned behavior from somewhere, from having bad examples of leaders in the past, or from trauma, and again, this doesn't excuse it. What explains something doesn't excuse it, but it does kind of give you a deeper understanding of like how to move forward. Another thing I just wanted to say is that you don't have to remain the scene partner in this situation. I don't know all the details of how you are currently tethered to this person, or to what degree you're currently tethered to this person, but you don't have to. This is the joy of realizing that everything is improv. We limit ourselves so many times in thinking what our next possible steps are by thinking that, by just fear, by just thinking that leaving the company is putting everyone in a bad spot and it's quitting on them and it's going to ruin everything. Or what opportunities could I really have, with my specific skill set or whatever. I'm not going to guess what I think your limiting beliefs or whatever are around the situation. But there are way more possibilities than you think, like I just had a phone call earlier today that was just rocking my world about this exact thing. The opportunities are whatever you think they are and 10 times more. And it's not just about the job market, how it is right now. That's not just what I'm saying. I'm saying there is a vast horizon of possibility when you allow yourself to really believe all of this that we're doing is made up. What do I really want? And you get in alignment with that. Focus on that. Focus on what you really want. Don't just get so focused on, how it is. Because then again, you won't be tied to the truth. You'll be tied to your natural instinct will just be to become the equal and opposite reaction to this toxic behavior. That's not what you want. You will become part of the toxicity before you can say Bob's your uncle, if you don't get into alignment and really start asking yourself, like, what do you really want? Okay, I could probably talk about that in particular forever. And, the thing is, this is something that probably the thing people talk to me the most about, because I think the idea of believing that love is at the core of everyone, people's knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I so badly want that. Yeah. That resonates with me. I really like that. I really want that. It's just that I have literally loads of evidence to the contrary that I would like to discuss with you at this juncture. And so few things bring me as much joy as really getting into that, so I understand that. I understand the hesitance around it. I share in this chapter that when that truth first came to me, I had that reaction. I was like, yes, that resonates with me. That is deep truth. That feels good. And then I imagined saying it at the next speaking engagement that I had, and I could just imagine the eye rolls and people being like, whoa, no. I can think of so many people that do not have love at their center. But that's the deep truth. That's just the deep truth. And so I could talk about that forever, but I want to get to the next question. I can think of times at work when I have left the room because of how someone was behaving, shouting, being demeaning, and just making everyone feel bad about themselves without any genuinely helpful criticism or solutions. I'm feeling like I should have chosen curiosity instead of judgment in that situation. So I'm wondering, is it okay to leave in those situations, or how could you handle it? So I wish that I could know. If I had it my way, all of these conversations, we'd all be face to face, because I feel like I would like to know if you finished the whole chapter or not, because I don't want to say something you've already heard. But my answer to this is later in the chapter when I talk about scene editing. That's what this is, because we have come to tell ourselves a story where exiting a situation is bad somehow, or like quitting, or I don't know, like it's not that you didn't choose curiosity. Here's what it is. This is how I want to say it. It is not the case that you didn't choose curiosity instead of judgment in that situation. It's the case that you chose a different skill in that moment. A situation is bigger than a moment, okay? And so that's the big truth that I think can really help us reshape our experiences with confrontation. Confrontation and conflict in your work environment is a timeline. It's a bigger thing, and it's made up of different moments. And what's right in any one particular moment will be clear to you when you are in alignment. Because sometimes it's choose curiosity instead of judgment. I mean, it's always that in some way. But it is absolutely okay to realize, ooh, in this moment, this is not what I can do. This is not what I need, and this isn't okay. And so I'm going to exit. And as a matter of fact, I didn't share all the details, but I had the opportunity to speak to a group of leaders earlier this week. And this is not an uncommon situation. Like, this was brought up in a similar situation, was brought up in that environment. And I actually experienced a similar situation last week, and I chose to leave. And that wasn't me ending any sort of relationship, like the actual opposite. It was me in that moment being like, oh, this isn't what I need. This is not what I want. This isn't what I can do. I'm going to remove myself from this environment where shouting is happening, knowing full well we'll touch base later. We'll reconvene later. We will address it later. So this idea of scene editing is like, basically, to explain it, if you're not familiar, in a long form improv show, which is not all of my improv work, but primarily what I did was long form improv. And so instead of it being games like what you might have seen on Whose Line Is It Anyway, it's like a play, kind of like made up scenes. And then one improviser will like run across the front of the stage or in some other way end that scene. That's called a scene edit. That scene ends, the stage is cleared, new improvisers come out, like from the same team, but like different people come out and they start a new scene. And it's not saying that's the end of the show. It's not saying we'll never revisit that. It's just saying we've done as much as we can do for now. We'll come back to it when we've had time to be inspired by other information, by other scenes, and then we'll build with these same characters and themes and ideas. We'll build with them later when we've had more inspiration. That's essentially what you did when you left. Said, oh, this is what I can do for now. We'll come back to it when we have more information. That's part of it. The other thing is that I would say you probably offered more insight than you realize by leaving. Like, I'm assuming you didn't kick the door down and flip everybody off on your way out. That would have not maybe been helpful. So there's, a lot in the how, but I'm assuming that that's not what happened. I'm assuming that you grabbed your laptop and walked out the door, and that was a testament to this is not okay. What's happening right now is not okay. And in some ways it makes it like impossible not to address later. So I think that what I would chiefly say in my response to this is you're an amazing improviser, and you will know which of the many different tools in confrontation, you'll know what's the right thing for this moment when you're in alignment. So always the question is just, am I in alignment or am I not? Because if you're in alignment while the shouting is happening, absolutely engage. Absolutely, at this event that I was at when I was speaking to these leaders, I'm trying to remember exactly how the question was asked. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it was something to the effect of like, just like, is it okay to speak up in that moment? And my response was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you have the wherewithal to be like, what did you mean by that? Or, hey, this is what it is. Hey, I believe that what you're saying has a lot of merit. I think that, like, I can tell that you feel really passionately about that, and I'm grateful for that. I also just want to offer that we're not going to be able to receive what a great idea you're offering. We're not going to be able to receive your suggestions or your feedback in this environment. We need to take a break. We need for cooler heads to prevail. And I care so much. This is what it is. I care so much about what you're saying that I want to hear it when I can receive it. And I can't receive it when it's being snarled at me. So we need a minute, like that's honoring your scene partner. That's what that is honoring your scene partner. So all of it just depends on, are you in alignment or aren't you? Because that's what's going to determine if you can offer it in a way that it's receivable. Okay. And then I also wanted to share a story about, so at this event that I was at when I was speaking to this group of leaders, we actually played Hotspot Collaborative Story, which is the game that I explain. It's one of the games. I think I share several in this chapter, if I'm not mistaken. But Hotspot Collaborative Story is definitely one of the ones that I introduce in this chapter and explain how it works. And so I guess I'll just explain in case you haven't read the chapter and you're just watching because you love my delightful personality and you're just curious about what this is. But Hotspot Collaborative Story is a game where everyone's standing in a circle. One person goes into the middle and they start telling a story that's never been heard before. They're just making it up for the first time. And it's the job of the people standing in the circle, their teammates, their scene partners, as we say in improv, to tag them out at some point and pick up exactly where they left off. And I think that this is maybe one of the most powerful games. It's like I just love playing this with people because it really allows you to explore that balance of when does someone just, they need to feel that pressure. They need to feel that I've run out of things, but luckily my brain is magic and I can keep digging if I stay focused. You know, like sometimes people need that challenge and they can really find this moment of confidence for themselves. And other times it's like, get out there and support them. So it's a great game for practicing that. When am I not needed on stage? When do I need to get out there and support? And this incredible moment happened that I wanted to share with you guys in this read along. So there's the woman's out there and she's telling her part of the story and she's clearly like, I need someone to help me. Like, so one of the leaders is on the sidelines. He's very quiet. He's very engaged, clearly very much listening, clearly engaged, but he's very quiet and reserved. And it's clear that like the idea of doing improv together is, you know, out of his comfort zone, which is perfect. Anyhow, so this woman's in the middle. She's struggling. She looks at him in particular, like, help. And I love those moments. And so she's like, stopped talking, you know, and just like looking at him like, can you come tag me out, please? And he goes, I wrote it down. He goes, he says, I've got nothing. I don't have any idea what to say. And didn't get out there. And so she keeps going. Someone else kind of tagged her out. But we circled back to that moment when we were reflecting after the game. And I said to him in particular, like in that moment, this is the whole thing. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And there's a lot of reasons why in our lives we have either been told or we've internalized the belief from somewhere that we're not the kind of person who's creative. We're not a creative type. We're not the kind of person who can think on their feet, whatever. And if any single person hears this and believes that about themselves or can empathize with that feeling of, I would get out there, but I have no idea what to do. And outside of this game, the game is a metaphor for life, right? Whatever it is, whatever the situation is, you're seeing it happen. You know, your scene partner needs your support right now, but you're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't want to make it worse. I'm scared that if I get out there, I'll make it worse, you know, or I'm scared if I get out there, people will laugh at me, or they'll say that they'll have criticism about how I responded and how I handled it. This is why I call it sacrificial support. That's what all this is building to. This is why I call it sacrificial support, because some of my favorite moments as an improviser have been those times where I just knew my scene partner needed me, but I didn't have any plan. I didn't have any idea what I was going to say. I didn't have any plan, but I knew my scene partner needs me, you know? And those have been like the best moments, like some of my happiest and most successful moments as a comedian, like as an improviser performing, have been those times of just getting out there because my scene partner needs me without some big idea, you know? Conversely, I've been the one, not waffling, that's not the right word. I can't think of the word I need, but I've been the one out there like, please help me. I'm out of ideas now. Help me. And knowing, like seeing a scene partner come out with nothing just to get in the mess with me and support me and trust we're going to figure it out together. That's what's about to happen is we're going to figure it out together. I can't even begin to tell you like just the appreciation, you know, and the trust of those moments is so beautiful. And so like, think about that. Like, that's what sacrificial support is I'm here for you. I'm in the mess with you because I believe that we'll figure it out together. You know, it's okay that we don't have a plan. We'll build it. We'll build it together. I'm in the mess with you, you know? And so that's kind of just a thought I wanted to leave you guys with, of this anding with impact. It's so hand in hand with servant leadership too, but it's just this idea of sacrificial support. I'm not here to be impressive. I'm here to support you. I'm here to hear what you need, and I'm here to support you, even if it means I have to stick my neck out there and risk some criticism. That will be okay, because it's not about me, it's about us. And that's just this idea of mindful improv thinking that I think is so beautiful, and that I just wanted to underscore, because that was like a really awesome moment in this training earlier this week, that I just wanted to share with you, since I teach that game in this chapter. But I will close for now. I'm at the 30-minute mark. But if you are reading the book, we'll be doing chapter 6 next week. I'll respond to questions from chapter 6 next week. There are several ways that you can submit a question, or just a story, or a thought. All of it is wonderful, and I'm happy to hear from you. You can send an email to andrea@andbeyondimprov.com, and I will read it and I will respond. There is a form on my website, andbeyondimprov.com / I think it's in both places. But funny thing about forgiveness, you can look and see there's a form where you can submit questions. And you can also just comment on social posts, or reach out on social media and private messages. Is totally a fine way to do it. So read chapter 6 and send me your thoughts, your questions, your stories. And I hope it's clear, even just from this week, nothing brings me more joy than the real truth, the real reaction of, I don't know how, like, I can imagine this person. I am not put off or scared from pure evil comments, right? The pure evil comment. Please, whatever your genuine reaction is, I am honored to hear it. I am honored to hear your real question, your real situation. That is how we really move the needle forward on culture, is by being honest about what the struggle is. So thank you for watching. If you're watching live, thank you for watching. If you're watching the replay, I'm just really enjoying this whole process. Has been lovely and beautiful. So please send me your questions, and thank you for watching. If you haven't gotten a copy of the book yet, it's in the link for this post. But you can also just go to Amazon.com. Don't know if you've heard of Amazon, and type in The Funny Thing About Forgiveness, and you will find it. All right. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.